And Chualing, the matter is serious, without a doubt. I mean, many of our industries, and I'm talking here about our primary industries, are heavily reliant on gas usage. Now, the gas cliff, as we frame it, is really a subject of the fact that the natural gas that we use from Mozambique, the resource is running out. And already Sasol, the main supplier, is already trying to intervene to keep gas flowing. So the natural decline of this will bring us to June 2028. And then from that point onwards, Sasol indicated that it may be in a position to carry us for a few months more. We're talking here a short period of about 24 months.
Okay.
In terms of synthetic gas. But you are quite right. I mean, we have lots of industries in KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga and Gauteng, which could be adversely affected by this.
And with the case ongoing, do we have some sort of direction on how we're going to deal with the issue? You mentioned that Sasol said they could push for an extra 24 months, but do we have a plan in place to beef up the supply?
Industry has been hard at work over the last 24 months or so, really to drive a solution. We're talking here about a practical, transactional solution to find alternatives. The way we see it, and given the timelines that we have available, we will be reliant on imported gas, and we call this liquefied natural gas, or LNG, through Mozambique. Now, putting these transactions together are deeply complex. They require multi-stakeholder engagement, governments, private sectors, developers, lenders, and we have advanced commercially quite well in terms of creating the market platform for this. Industry has recently created a company called Gas Hub, which is a non-profit trading platform for transactions of this nature, and it has advanced various commercial agreements with pipeline operators and potential suppliers upstream. What is missing, though, right now is the wrapping, as we call it, of this transaction in the form of guarantees, commercial and infrastructure type guarantees. And this is now where we have to engage with the government to see how the public and the private partnership can collaborate on this.
And how has that been going then, Yaku? Have private sector and government really been engaging on this, especially when it comes to infrastructure, because you do mention the importing of LNG?
It is important to note that this is infrastructure in the national interest. We simply have to build this infrastructure, to your point.
South Africa's proposal to import large volumes of liquefied natural gas from the United States marks one of the most significant potential shifts in the country's trade and energy strategy in decades. At a time when relations between Pretoria and Washington have been strained by political disagreements, tariff threats, and diplomatic tensions, the gas proposal introduces a new economic dimension that could either reset relations or expose deeper fault lines. South Africa's energy crisis provides the immediate backdrop. Years of power shortages, rolling blackouts, and underinvestment in generation capacity have weakened economic growth and eroded public confidence. Eskom's aging coal fleet, combined with maintenance failures and financial strain, has forced the government to seek urgent alternatives. Gas has emerged as a transitional fuel capable of stabilizing the grid while renewable capacity scales up. Domestic gas reserves are limited, and regional supply from Mozambique has proven vulnerable to security disruptions. This reality has pushed South Africa to look beyond the continent. The United States has rapidly become one of the world's largest exporters of liquefied natural gas. Shale gas production has transformed America into a dominant supplier, with LNG cargoes flowing to Europe, Asia, and increasingly to emerging markets. South Africa's proposal envisions long-term purchase agreements that could be worth billions of dollars annually, creating a new trade artery between the two countries. For Pretoria, the logic is both economic and strategic. Securing stable gas supplies would support electricity generation, industrial use, and petrochemical production. It would also strengthen South Africa's negotiating position with other energy suppliers. At the same time, a major gas deal with the U.S. could serve as a diplomatic reset, counterbalancing recent friction over foreign policy positions and trade disputes. Washington's interest is equally clear. Expanding LNG exports aligns with U.S. economic goals, supports domestic producers, and strengthens geopolitical influence. Energy exports have become a central tool of U.S. diplomacy, allowing Washington to deepen ties with partners while reducing their reliance on rival suppliers. A South African deal would extend U.S. energy reach into southern Africa, a region of growing strategic importance. The proposal reportedly includes broader trade concessions. South Africa has floated the idea of increased imports of U.S. gas in exchange for improved access to American markets for South African exports, including vehicles, steel, and agricultural products. This linkage reflects Pretoria's concern over potential U.S. tariffs and uncertainty surrounding trade preference programs. Energy cooperation could become leverage in broader negotiations. However, the deal is not without controversy. Critics inside South Africa argue that locking into long-term gas imports risks delaying the transition to renewable energy. They warned that infrastructure investments in LNG terminals and gas-fired power plants could become stranded assets as global climate policies tighten. Environmental groups have also raised concerns about methane emissions associated with gas production and transport. Supporters counter that gas is a pragmatic necessity. They argue that renewable energy alone cannot yet meet South Africa's baseload needs and that gas offers a cleaner alternative to coal. By stabilizing the grid, gas could actually accelerate renewable deployment by providing backup capacity. From this perspective, U.S. gas is a bridge, not a destination. The geopolitical implications are complex. South Africa has pursued a foreign policy that emphasizes strategic autonomy and engagement with multiple global powers. Its participation in BRICS and its non-aligned stance on major global conflicts have drawn criticism from Washington. A major energy deal could be interpreted as a sign of recalibration, but South African officials insist it does not signal alignment with any single power. For the United States, the deal tests its willingness to compartmentalize economic cooperation from political disagreements. Past U.S. policy has sometimes linked trade and aid to political alignment. Accepting South Africa as a major LNG customer while tensions persist would indicate a more pragmatic approach driven by mutual economic benefit. Domestic politics in both countries will shape the outcome. In South Africa, any large-scale energy agreement faces scrutiny over cost, transparency, and long-term impact. Public trust in major infrastructure projects has been undermined by corruption scandals, making accountability a central issue. In the United States, energy exports are politically sensitive, intersecting with debates over climate policy and domestic energy prices. Regional dynamics also matter. A South Africa-US gas deal could influence energy planning across southern Africa. Neighboring countries may seek access to gas infrastructure or pursue similar arrangements. This could reshape regional energy markets and reduce dependence on unstable supply routes. The timing of the proposal is significant. Global LNG markets remain tight following disruptions in Europe and Asia. Prices are volatile, and competition for long-term contracts is intense. South Africa's entry into this market could expose it to price risk if not carefully structured. Negotiating favorable terms will require sophisticated financial and legal expertise. There is also the question of infrastructure. Importing LNG at scale would require terminals, storage facilities, and pipelines. These investments could stimulate job creation and industrial activity, but they also demand large upfront capital. Decisions made now will shape South Africa's energy landscape for decades. From a diplomatic perspective, the proposal sends a message that South Africa is willing to engage economically even amid political differences. It reflects a broader trend in which African countries leverage their market potential to negotiate on more equal footing with global powers. Rather than seeking aid, they seek trade and investment that align with national priorities. U.S. reaction so far has been cautious but interested. Energy companies see opportunity, while policymakers weigh strategic implications. The deal could strengthen bilateral ties or become another arena of contention if linked too closely to political demands. Ultimately, the proposed gas deal encapsulates the evolving nature of South Africa-U.S. relations. It highlights the tension between energy security, economic development, climate commitments, and geopolitical strategy. Whether the proposal leads to a transformative partnership or stalls amid controversy will depend on negotiations in the months ahead. What is clear is that South Africa is no longer a passive player in global energy markets. By putting U.S. gas on the table, Pretoria has signaled ambition, urgency, and a willingness to reshape its external relationships. The response from Washington will reveal how much room exists for cooperation in an increasingly multipolar world.
You've been watching Echoes of Africa, where every story carries the sound of tomorrow. If this moved you, subscribe now, like, and share so Africa's voice never fades into silence.